For this week's vlog, what I wanted to talk about was a little bit of an addition of what I had talked about last week in terms of the next steps. So last week I talked about addressing the injury as well as finding a substitute while I'm not running. Today we're going to address what the future plan looks like. I'll also give you a little bit of details of what my current training looks like, and I want to add in a little bit of what it means to me to be able to run, and therefore how important it is that you have someone there to help you to continue to do what you love. So when I'm talking about building a better future and having a future plan, one of the things that I'm really focused on now is recovery work. So, I always say I can help you because I am you. So frequently people neglect this part of their training, the recovery work. And now this is how I'm starting to kind of reorient myself. If say I have about like an hour in the morning time to do my workout or to run before I have to, shower and get ready, I'm going to approach it this way. If I have 60 minutes, then that means that if I have 10 minutes for my warm up, which I pretty much always have, I also then need 10 minutes at the end for that recovery work. So then what that leaves me with then is 40 minutes to run. Now, if I want more time to run, then that doesn't mean I forgo the warm up or the recovery. It means that I just allocate a little bit more time. This is going to be one of those things that it's going to be a really hard rule to follow, but it's one that's necessary, right? Because I don't like the fact that I've had to take off 4 or 5 weeks from running. So it's going to be one that I'm going to implement, and one that I've already started as I've been doing my bike workouts. So recovery work is key. That will look like foam rolling and stretching. What I describe it as is I'm kind of making sure that everything goes back on track. So as you're using your muscles and you're moving through space and things like that, what ends up happening is you get a little like knocked off track, right? Because everyone has asymmetries. So what I'm trying to do with that recovery work is kind of make sure, okay, I may have kind of deviated a little bit. So now I need to make sure that I kind of come back to center. So then that way I prevent this cumulative effect, which ultimately ends up leading to injury. Another piece of my future plan for my training regimen will be that I'm going to continue with the bike workouts, because this is a really great way to build that high aerobic work as well as the anaerobic work. Now, what I want to really emphasize is that frequently when we talk about cross training, we just kind of think of this as like just kind of fluff, right? These workouts are going to be really intentional. So because these are also hard workouts, they need to be factored in with the rest of my training, in terms of being sure that I'm not doing a track workout on a Sunday and then on Monday I'm coming in and I'm doing like an all-out speed work where I'm going to really challenge that anaerobic work, because there'd be a redundancy. So I'll talk to you guys about that, of what that looks like for me, because the thing that I'm going to be thinking about is that my non-running workouts are still going to be doing something that's going to supplement my running, as opposed to it just kind of being like, oh, okay, it's something just to kind of get my legs moving. That's not how I'm going to approach this. So this is going to take them a good bit of some thought. Right now, it really works because this week, for example, I've been doing these like short 2-mile runs that are really easy. My heart rate is only, 130 beats per minute as I'm doing it. So this is kind of like a recovery run. So then I can do a hard bike workout. But once that intensity starts to build, or my volume starts to build with running, then I have to be a little bit more specific of how I approach that on the bike. One other point that I'll make regarding this in terms of the recovery, and then also the kind of like cross training or like using other means to add to your training regimen, is that I can speak about this because I do this, right? I help patients be able to figure this out. So if you yourself, you're not exactly sure, here's where it's really important to find someone that you trust in terms of being able to provide a plan for you or give you a little bit of structure, some recommendations. This is something that we really frequently do at Mobility Doc, to kind of say to someone like, okay, how can we round out your training in order to help you to optimize? I'm invested in this plan for the future where I'm going to incorporate more bike workouts as well as recovery work, because being a runner is integral to my being, right? Like this is how I think of myself. I think of myself as someone who is able to run. I've been running for more than 2 decades. So this is really important to me to be able to continue to run. So therefore, I'm going to make a plan in order to make sure that I can continue to do that. If someone says to you, maybe you should just stop running, I think that it's really important to kind of look at that and kind of say like, well, why are they telling me that I should stop running? Or if you kind of feel like, oh, I'm running into like all of these injuries, why is it that I keep getting injured? Here is where it's so important to have someone who can actually help you with this process. I'm sharing all of this, all of my personal experience, because I'm kind of straddling these two worlds of being my own patient and also being a physical therapist. So now myself as a physical therapist is trying to help myself as a patient, which, you know, there can be some conflict of interest there. But I'm committed though on both ends to being able to run again. So what that means though is that then you need a plan. You can't just go back to doing what you were doing before. You can't just say, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of totally scrap this. You know, you really need to be deliberate with how you go about reorganizing some of that training, and also being able to identify what the problem was to begin with. And this leads me to one of my other points in terms of for running really just feels like something for me that it's like, it can't compare to anything else. Like it is just in a league of its own in terms of being able to be outside, moving through space, being able to just like have this like clarity of mind. It is so important to me to be able to do this. And I can't tell you how happy I've been even to just be able to like run to work. I haven't run to work since June 23rd, and just yesterday I was able to run, so that was August 1st. And I mean, I was just so elated to be able to do that. So I understand you, right? Like I understand your desire to be able to do what it is that you want to do, because I am that person as well. But what I'm here to tell you though is that you need a plan to make sure you can continue to do that. Fortunately, there are other people that can help you to be able to make sure that you do have that plan. I'm going to be continuing to detail some of my workouts, because the other thing too is that when I'm looking at some of this progress in terms of being able to run again, I'm really just using it as a trial and error. My current phase of training right now is that I'm running these like small 2-mile runs where then I have plenty of time to foam roll and stretch before and after. So those 2-mile runs, I'm maybe running 9-minute pace. So it's like, you know, it's under 20 minutes, but I am making sure I'm doing a 10-minute warm up and a 10-minute cool down, like a recovery. So I'm looking at 40 minutes because I really want to just make sure that I like develop these good habits, and also I'm supporting myself as I continue with my recovery. The plan for the rest of this week is to do somewhere right around like 2-mile runs, maybe a max of like a 4-mile run if I have a little bit more time, where I can still make sure that I do my recovery work. But I'm going to continue with this for another probably 2 weeks or so, because I still feel some discomfort in terms of like a little bit of like aching in the shin, a little bit of like strain in the calf as either when I first start or as I continue. So I'm using that as a gauge. My progress is not going to be linear, and that's so important in thinking about this future plan and where I'm continuing in this recovery process, is that there are going to be these undulations, right? So it's like, it's a matter though of kind of saying, okay, can I proceed with caution, or do I have to scale something back? Again, I can use my knowledge and experience to be able to like help me with that. But if you need any assistance, here is where it's really helpful to be able to talk to someone, where then you can say, okay, you know, is this a little bit too much? Is this not enough? You know, that kind of thing. Because that's what's key, is that there's so much trial and error. At Mobility Doc, we understand that you are trying to do what you love, and we support you in that. If my injury is any testament to our commitment to that, I can tell you 1,000% that we're committed to helping you do the thing that you love. Again, like I said, I am not myself when I'm not running, so we are happy to help you in whatever way we can. Use our YouTube as a resource. You know, if you're trying to figure out what should I do for my recovery work, what should I do to improve my single leg stability, we have a pretty expansive but still always growing library of these tools to be able to help you to be an all-around better mover.